It's Emily with Miss Anita's Crafts, and today I'm going to be doing a craft with Model Magic clay made by Crayola. It comes in all different kinds of packages. This one actually comes out of the super big pack. It comes in a bucket, and you'll get 4 or 5 colors that are this size. You can also buy the regular packs if you buy the individual, which comes in a yellow pack like this. I just keep mine sealed up with some tape so that it doesn't dry out because it is air dry clay, and it seems to dry out pretty quick. You don't really want to leave this stuff laying out for probably more than an hour without sealing it up really good. But this is what the single packs look like if you buy them on the shelf in all the different colors. They have a whole bunch of colors, but I like to get white and then some primaries that I can just mix the shade that I want, because today's craft I'm going to be doing something with a little bit of a pinkish tint to it. But these come in little 4-ounce packs. Also buy the multi-packs online, so if you're going to be doing a lot with only one color or just a couple colors, you can buy big boxes of these little 1-ounce packs. And so I'm going to be using the white one, but you know, you could use any one of these packages. They're all the same kind of clay, they just look a little different on the packaging. So for this craft I'm going to do something that is weirdly popular, and it's a strange little creature called an axolotl. So I have the shape that I cut out of cardboard. This is sort of the base that I'm going to be using, but you know, pretty easy to make your shape on there if you're going to do more than one, or you just want to have a template that you can save for a future project. You would just kind of draw something, sketch it out first on paper, or if you can just eyeball it, then you would do that. Make your template something that you can use over and over, and then, you know, just save one of them and use an old crummy pair of scissors to cut through cardboard, because you don't want to mess up your good scissors. And then just going carefully around that line. It's okay if you still see some marker, because what we're going to be doing is going to cover over that. Kind of just a basic shape. And I want this to be something kind of functional, so it's not just a cute little critter. I want this to be a refrigerator magnet. So before we get started, we'll just, I have a couple of little magnets here. So on the back, I'll put a magnet here, and a little further down on the tail. And if you had a strip magnet, that might even be better, but those tend to be a little bit weaker, and these are pretty good. These are nice and strong, so we'll just put those in place. Okay, with the magnets on the back, we're going to push that aside. We're going to get some white clay. So I will aim for about 2 ounces of white clay. I'm not sure exactly how much it's going to use. But again, make sure your workstation is clean when you're doing this. I'm going to put something down. If you work on paper, Model Magic will stick to the paper. So this is a, you know, plastic mat, so it's okay. It's not going to stick to it. Put some wax paper down or something, you know, if you're going to be working on your craft table, because it might pick up whatever you've got on there. So I think I will get just a tiny bit more. Trying to eyeball, so I have about 2 ounces worth. It's a little hard to tell. Okay, and then I wanted to have a little pinkish tint, so I'm going to just use, since I don't want to use the pink that they make in Model Magic because it would be too dark or too bright. You want it to kind of be able to adjust this as you go. So I'm just going to take a pinch of the red clay and put it in there with my white, and then I'll just sort of start to mix it in. It will start to look a little bit marbled, and you just keep on swirling it up until it's all mixed in there. You could also use some washable markers and just draw a little bit on the white clay, kind of scribble on there, and then mix it in this way. That will color your fingers a little bit, so just be prepared, but either way will work just fine. So I'm just going to keep going until all that red is worked in, just kneading it back and forth with your hands. All right, it's pretty good. It's the nice light pink color that I was going for. I'm going to pinch off a little bit that I'm going to need to reserve for the arms and legs. So that might be a little too much, but let's just put that aside. And this is going to be for the body. Okay, if it's still a little bit marbled, that's going to be okay. So we'll just keep working that around. So this will stick to, like I said before, it will stick to paper, so it'll stick to your cardboard. So I'm just going to sort of start to work it into about the length of my axolotl cutout, knowing that the tail's a little skinnier. Almost sort of start to mimic the shape of cardboard, so that when you place this on top, you have enough to cover it. So I have it heavier on one side than on the other, and it almost kind of resembles what I've got here. So then you're just going to sort of work it onto the cardboard, and it will just grab onto it very nicely. If your clay is a little bit dry, because maybe, I don't know, you've had it sitting out for too long, or it has been a little while since you've worked with it, it might have had some time to dry up in the package, you might have a little bit of difficulty getting it to stick onto the cardboard. But if it's fresh, sticky clay, it will be able to stick on there just fine. And if you'd like, you can even curl around to the edge a little bit just to cover that little cardboard up. But this is where you're going to be using a little pinching method and just sort of barely getting enough clay on there, because you don't want all your clay to go off to the side, just enough to cover that cardboard up so that we just see clay going to the edge. And you just get your little kind of pinch action going around there, pressing it down with your thumb, and make sure that whole thing is sealed on there real good. But this does stick on there really well. Very easy to adhere to the cardboard. Okay, I'm just going to keep going around while I'm leaving it kind of high in the center. So if this is a side view, it's still pretty tall up on top. I'm only going around just pinching the very edge, so I'm still kind of staying true to the shape of the cardboard. Okay, so now is where I want to start to kind of shape the tail a little bit. So I want the head to be pretty smooth and round. That's about the shape I want, but I just sort of want to round it out by pressing on it lightly with my thumbs, because this stuff is very soft. It's like a marshmallow. It's super soft and easy to mush. So it's really good to use when you're working with little ones, because you know, the polymer clay can be a little hard to smush up in your hands. So this stuff is easy for anybody. So, you know, you don't have to have a whole lot of strength behind it. But what I want to do is kind of leave this part a little smooth. But and I say all that to mean just make sure if you are a little heavy-handed and you kind of have a little more pressure in your you know, your sculpting, you want to make sure you don't really crush this and smush it flat, because it's very easy to do. You kind of want to play with it in your hands a little bit before you start doing this, so you understand how much pressure you're able to use before you mess with it too much. So I kind of smooth that out a little bit, and you can sort of maybe even, you know, kind of run your finger over it to get all those cracks out. But then on the tail, I want the tail to have some ridges. So that's where I'm going to be getting the little pinching fingers out again to sort of build up this little ridge here by just pinching it toward the top, kind of pulling it lightly toward the top, leaving it on the cardboard. I don't want to pull it off, but I'm just going to create a little ridge on the back, kind of like what you'd see on a stingray or something like that. Okay? And you can create it as deep as you want, and just kind of keep going, but smooth it out. Don't leave your fingerprints all down it, just like that. All right, a little groove down the back. Pretty cool. And then kind of follow that S curve if you have something like that, like I do, on the back. And I'm just going to go all the way up to where his little antennas are. I don't really know what those things are called, actually, but I've got something cute that I'm going to use for that part of him. He's got these little things that look like ears sticking out of the top of his head. So there we go. I think that's enough for the ridge on the back. I think that's how much I'm going to do. And now we need to work on, while this is still sticky, we need to give him his arms and legs. So we're going to use our extra little piece that we had set aside. And this is where you're going to want to roll it out. So on a clean work surface, just sort of roll it out. We want it to look like a long noodle, and this will be easy for us to, you just take your scissors and chop it up into 4 pieces, and we're going to make little legs. And we're actually not going to make any feet. We're just going to make little loops where the arms and legs would be sticking off the side, because that'll be super easy for us. Okay, so we'll cut this into 4 pieces, pretty even pieces, right? Whatever we get from that. And if you don't use it all, then you don't use it all, and that's fine. We're going to stick one right here, and actually that little part where we cut it, it sticks. It's really fresh and sticky in there, so it's going to stick really well, just like that. Okay, and we're going to do one on the other side, and we're going to just sort of right at the bottom stick it on there, curve it around carefully, and just like that. So those are his little arms. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing for the legs in the back. Stick it on there. And then the idea is just that maybe the feet are underneath them somewhere, but we don't actually have to make any feet unless you wanted to. But we can leave it just like this, and we get the idea. Okay, plus this is all of our clay, so we've used it all up, but you know, it's pretty easy to tell what those are supposed to be. They're just tucked underneath him as he's, you know, doing the little swimming action. Okay, so there's that, and now we need to give him a mouth, we need to give him eyes, and we need to give him those little weird antenna things on his head. All right, so for the antennas, I have a whole bunch of these bright pink fuzzy pipe cleaners that I never use for anything, because I don't know, but they're pink, so I don't really use a lot of the pink ones. I use more of the Christmas colored ones, or maybe the browns, you know, to make trees and reindeer and things like that, but I don't really use the pink ones. So I'm going to cut little 1-inch pieces. Okay, seems to have 6 of these sticking out of his head, so I might even make him a little bit shorter. And don't use scissors for this. Please, you'll ruin your scissors if you use your good scissors for cutting pipe cleaners. So I just use some pliers or something meant to cut wire, so my little floral snippers. And I just always keep these nearby whenever I'm cutting anything with wire, because your scissors will get so ruined so fast. All right, and then it's kind of like you'd just be sticking them in his head, so kind of like right there, and it'll go in really easy. And this part you could even do once they're once this thing is dry. You could poke them in still, because the clay will still stay soft. It won't be mushy, of course, when it dries. There we go. Put a little space. Almost do them like eyebrows or something. Think of them as big eyelashes or eyebrows, right where that would be, I guess, on his face, to give you an idea. But you know, the clay doesn't stay mushy. It'll harden, but it'll be foamy, so you'll be able to poke right in. It'll feel like you're poking in a styrofoam or something. But that's enough. We just have a little bit sticking in there, but enough to hold it. Okay, that's really cute. And then we're going to use a tool to, while he's still soft and mushy, we're going to make the indentation for the mouth. So I have this cool little clay tool, but you could use a lot of different things. I mean, you could just use a toothpick or something, but I'm going to use this neat tool. You could also use a little poker tool like this or something. But I'm going to use the end of this because it's actually made for making a smile. But I'm going to do a couple of them. So I got one there, and I'm going to give him this cute little mouth just like that. Okay, so I just kind of dug in a little bit, but you could do that easily with a straw. You could do it with a toothpick or a needle or something like that. And then I have these little eyes that come on a sheet. So I bought these online. They're just sticky eyes that you could use when you're making dolls and things like that. But they also make them not sticky, so you can hot glue them on. But these are sticky, so I'm just going to use the biggest ones because I wanted to have nice big eyes. I'm just going to actually put just the tiniest bit of hot glue right here on this one, on the side, just to be sure it sticks. And they have a little adhesive, but sometimes you can never be too sure right on the side. If you have bigger eyes, go ahead and use the bigger ones too, because that's really cute. Right there on the side of his head. And he's pretty cute. He was actually really quick to make, a lot quicker than I thought. You can try to do this with different colors, different sizes, you know, different variations of him. But this one was actually pretty easy, and I like the way he turned out. Remember, he's got the magnet on the back, so once this whole thing is dry, the foam will actually sturdy this pretty well. So you don't have to wonder if this is going to bend in the middle, because the foam will flatten it out and hold on there, because this Model Magic is actually pretty sturdy when it dries. But he was a pretty cool one. I like him a lot.